The warning lights flashed red across the cockpit as Jake Morrison fought to keep his starship level. The control stick shook in his hands like a wild animal trying to break free. Outside the small window, he could see the planet New Verona spinning. Below him, its green and blue surface growing larger by the second. Come on, Jake whispered to himself, pressing buttons and flipping switches. Nothing worked. The navigation computer showed only static. The engine made strange grinding sounds that no pilot ever wanted to hear. Jake was 25 years old and had been flying for the Earth Federation for 3 years. He had never crashed a ship before. He had never even come close. But today, everything was going wrong. The electromagnetic storm had come out of nowhere. One moment he was flying his regular patrol route around the New Verona system, checking for Colonial Liberation Front ships. The next moment, his instruments went crazy and his ship started falling toward the planet like a rock. The two human factions had been fighting for 10 years now. The Earth Federation wanted to keep all the colonies under Earth's control. Colonial Liberation Front wanted the outer colonies to be free and independent. New Verona was right in the middle of their territory, so both sides claimed it belonged to them. Jake's ship hit the atmosphere and started to shake harder. He could smell smoke coming from somewhere behind him. The heat shields were working, but barely. He had maybe 2 minutes before the ship would break apart completely. He looked down at the planet's surface and saw a flat area near some hills. It looked like grassland with no trees or buildings. If he could just reach it, he might survive the crash. Jake pulled back on the control stick with all his strength. The ship's nose came up slightly, but not enough. He was still coming in too fast and too steep. The ground rushed up toward him like a green wall. The ship hit the ground with a sound like thunder. Jake felt his body slam forward against his safety straps. The world spun around him as the ship bounced and rolled across the grass. Metal screamed against rock. Glass shattered. Then everything went quiet. Jake opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt, and he could taste blood in his mouth. The cockpit was tilted at a strange angle, and he could see sky through a crack in the ceiling. But he was alive. He unbuckled his safety straps and tried to stand up. Pain shot through his left leg, and he almost fell down again. Something was wrong with his knee. He looked down and saw that his flight suit was torn and bloody. Jake limped to the emergency kit and pulled out a medical scanner. The device beeped as it checked his body. Broken ribs, twisted knee, cuts on his face and hands, but nothing that would kill him. He was lucky. He tried to use the radio to call for help, but it was completely dead. The communication array on top of the ship was bent and broken. Even if it worked, he wasn't sure he wanted to call his Federation commanders. New Verona was supposed to be neutral territory, but if the Colonial Liberation Front found him first, they might shoot him as a spy. Jake took some pain medicine from the emergency kit and bandaged his cuts. Then he gathered supplies from the ship. Food, water, a small camping tent, and a basic tool kit. He would need to find shelter and figure out what to do next. The landscape around him was beautiful in a wild way. Rolling hills covered with purple grass stretched in every direction. Strange trees with silver leaves grew in small groups here and there. In the distance, he could see mountains with snow on their peaks. The air smelled clean and fresh, not like the recycled air on Earth's space stations. Jake had read about New Verona in his mission briefings, but he had never been here before. The planet was discovered only 20 years ago. It had perfect air for humans to breathe and weather that was never too hot or too cold. Both factions wanted to claim it because it would make an ideal colony world. As Jake was packing his supplies, he heard a sound that made him freeze. It was the hum of an engine, but not like any human engine he knew. It was quieter and had a different pitch. He looked up and saw a small aircraft flying toward him from the south. The aircraft was sleek and white, about the size of a personal shuttle. It didn't look like anything the Earth Federation used, and it didn't look like Colonial Liberation Front technology either. Jake had never seen anything like it. The aircraft circled his crash site once, then landed about 100 meters away. Jake limped behind his wrecked ship and watched through a hole in the hull. His heart was beating fast. If these were enemy soldiers, he was in serious trouble. He had a small pistol, but he was injured and outnumbered. The aircraft's door opened, and a single person stepped out. Jake could see right away that it was a woman, probably close to his own age. She had long brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail and wore a khaki work outfit that looked like field research gear. She carried a medical kit in one hand and some kind of scanning device in the other. The woman walked slowly toward Jake's crashed ship, looking around carefully. She didn't act like a soldier. She moved like a scientist or a doctor, someone who was curious rather than aggressive. "Hello?" She called out in a clear, friendly voice. "I saw your crash from my research station. Are you injured?" "I'm a doctor." Jake stayed hidden behind the wreckage. This could be a trick. Colonial Liberation Front soldiers might use a woman to make him feel safe, then capture him when he came out. "I know you're probably scared," the woman continued. "My name is Emma Carter. I work for the biological research team here on New Verona. I'm not military. I just want to help." Jake watched her through the hole in his ship's hull. She looked genuine, but he had been trained never to trust anyone from the enemy factions. Still, he was hurt and alone on a strange planet. If she really was a doctor, he needed her help. After a long moment, Jake made his decision. He stepped out from behind the wreckage, keeping his hand near his weapon, but not drawing it. "I'm Jake Morrison," he said. "Earth Federation pilot. My ship malfunctioned in the storm." Emma looked at him with concern, focusing on his injuries rather than his uniform. "You're hurt," she said. "Let me help you." Emma stepped closer to Jake, her medical scanner beeping softly as she checked his injuries. Jake watched her carefully, ready to reach for his weapon if needed. But Emma moved like a real doctor, not like someone pretending to be one. "Your knee is badly twisted," Emma said, looking at the scanner's display, "and you have 3 cracked ribs. You need proper medical attention, not just basic first aid." Jake winced as she gently touched his injured leg. "Are you really just a researcher?" he asked, "not Colonial Liberation Front military?" Emma looked up at him with surprise. "I'm a scientist. I study the life forms on this planet. I don't care about your war." She paused and added, "Though I suppose I do work for the CLF Research Division, they pay for my equipment and supplies." Jake felt his muscles tense. Emma noticed and held up her hands peacefully. "Look," she said, "I could have called CLF security when I saw your ship crash. Instead, I came here alone to help you. Doesn't that tell you something about what kind of person I am?" Jake thought about this. She was right. If Emma wanted to capture him, she could have brought soldiers. Instead, she had come by herself with medical supplies. "Why didn't you report me?" Jake asked. Emma stood up and looked him in the eyes. "Because you're hurt and you need help. I became a doctor to save lives, not to let people die because of politics." Jake made his decision. He needed medical care, and Emma seemed honest. "What do you suggest?" "My research station is about 10 kilometers from here," Emma said. "It's hidden in a valley where the satellites can't see it. I have a full medical lab there. I can treat your injuries properly." Jake looked back at his wrecked ship. It would never fly again. He had no radio and no way to contact his Federation unit. His choices were to trust Emma or try to survive alone on an alien planet while injured. "All right," Jake said. "But I keep my weapon." Emma nodded. "Fair enough. Can you walk to my aircraft?" Jake limped slowly to Emma's white shuttle with her. Help. The inside looked nothing like Federation or CLF vehicles. The controls were sleek and simple, and everything was designed for efficiency rather than military use. "This is interesting technology," Jake said as Emma started the engine. "I've never seen anything like it. It's based on New Verona's natural energy fields," Emma explained as they lifted off. The planet has some unique properties that make certain types of engines work better here. That's part of what I study. They flew over the rolling purple grasslands toward a range of low hills. Jake watched the landscape below with interest. New Verona was beautiful in a way that was completely different from Earth or any of the space stations where he had lived. "How long have you been here?" Jake asked. 2 years, Emma said. "I came here right after finishing my advanced degree in xenobiology. This planet has life forms that exist nowhere else in known space." "Xenobiology?" Jake repeated. "You study alien life?" Emma smiled for the first time since they had met. "Not exactly alien. More like life that evolved differently from Earth. Life. New Verona's organisms have some fascinating properties." They flew into a narrow valley between 2 hills. Jake could see a cluster of small buildings nestled among the silver-leaf trees. The research station looked peaceful and well-maintained. Emma landed the shuttle near the largest building and helped Jake walk inside. The interior was part laboratory, part medical clinic, and part living space. Scientific equipment lined the walls, but there were also comfortable chairs and a small kitchen area. "Sit here," Emma said, pointing to an examination table. She began pulling medical supplies from various cabinets. "This might hurt a little, but I need to set your knee properly." Jake gritted his teeth as Emma worked on his leg. She was skilled and gentle, but the injury was painful. While she worked, they talked to pass the time. "What made you become a pilot?" Emma asked as she wrapped his knee in a support brace. "I wanted to explore space," Jake said. "When I was a kid, I dreamed about discovering new worlds and seeing things that no human had ever seen before." Emma paused in her work. "That's interesting. Most Federation pilots I've heard about join to fight the CLF." Jake shook his head. "I joined to explore. The fighting just got in the way." "What about you? Why did you become a scientist?" "Same reason, actually," Emma said. "I wanted to understand how life works in different environments. I wanted to find things that could help humanity." She finished with his knee and moved on to checking his ribs. "The political stuff doesn't matter to me. Science should be about helping everyone." Jake thought about this as Emma worked. He had been taught that the Colonial Liberation Front wanted to destroy Earth's way of life. But Emma didn't seem interested in destroying anything. She just wanted to learn and help people. "Can I ask you something?" Jake said. "What do you think about the war between our factions?" Emma was quiet for a moment as she bandaged his ribs. "I think it's stupid," she said finally. "Humans should be working together to explore the galaxy, not fighting over who controls what. There's so much we don't know about the universe. We're wasting time and lives on a pointless conflict." Jake was surprised by her honesty. "That's not what we're told about the CLF. We're told you want to destroy Earth's civilization." Emma laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "And we're told that the Earth Federation wants to enslave all the outer colonies and steal their resources." Both sides probably lied to make their people angry enough to fight. "You might be right," Jake said. He had been having doubts about the war for months, but he had never talked about them with anyone. Emma finished treating his injuries and gave him some pain medicine. "You should rest now. Your body needs time to heal." Jake looked around the research station. "What about your work? Won't someone notice that you're taking care of an enemy pilot?" "I work alone most of the time," Emma said. "I only report to my supervisors once a week. And I'll think of something to tell them if they ask questions." That evening, Emma made dinner for both of them. As they ate, Jake learned more about her research. She studied small organisms that lived in symbiosis with New Verona's plants and animals. These organisms could apparently do amazing things. They seem to respond to emotional states, Emma explained. When the host organism is calm and happy, the symbionts become more active and helpful. When the host is stressed or angry, the symbionts become dormant. "That's incredible," Jake said. "What kind of help do they provide?" "They can heal injuries faster, boost the immune system, even enhance mental clarity, Emma said. But only when there's harmony between the host and the symbiont. Jake thought about this. It sounds like they reward cooperation and peace. Emma nodded. Exactly. It's like New Verona itself is trying to teach us something about how life should work. That night, Jake slept better than he had in months. For the first time since the war began, he felt safe and at peace. Jake woke up the next morning, feeling better than he had since the crash. His ribs still hurt, but the sharp pain in his knee had faded to a dull ache. He could hear Emma moving around in the laboratory section of the station. "Good morning," Emma called when she saw him sitting up. "How do you feel?" "Much better. Thanks to you," Jake said. He stood up carefully and walked toward her workstation. "What are you doing?" Emma was looking through a microscope at something that glowed with soft blue light. "I'm studying the symbionts I told you about yesterday. Want to see?" Jake looked. Through the microscope, the organisms were tiny, almost like living jewels that pulsed with gentle light. They moved in patterns that seemed almost like dancing. "They're beautiful," Jake said. "How do they work?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Emma said. "They bond with other life forms and create a partnership. Both the symbiont and the host benefit, but only if they work together in harmony." Emma showed Jake several containers with different samples. Some of the symbionts glowed brightly and moved actively. Others were dim and barely moving at all. "The active ones come from animals that are healthy and content," Emma explained. "The dim ones come from animals that are sick or stressed. It's like the symbionts can sense emotions and respond to them." Jake watched the glowing organisms with fascination. "Have you tried to see how they react to humans?" Emma hesitated. "A little bit. But I've been working alone, so the tests have been limited." She looked at Jake thoughtfully. "Actually, having you here might help with my research. Would you be willing to participate in some experiments?" "What kind of experiments?" Jake asked. "Nothing dangerous," Emma said quickly. "Just letting the symbionts come in contact with your skin to see how they react. They won't hurt you." Jake nodded. "I'll help if I can." Emma prepared a small sample of the organisms in a shallow dish. "Just put your hand near them," she said. "Don't touch them directly yet." Jake held his hand above the dish. The symbionts began to glow more brightly, and their movements became more active. Emma watched with excitement. "That's interesting," she said. "They're responding to you. Now try touching them gently." Jake lowered his finger until it barely touched the surface of the liquid. The moment his skin made contact, the symbionts began to glow with brilliant light. They moved toward his finger like they were attracted to it. "Amazing," Emma whispered. "I've never seen them react so strongly to a human." Jake felt a warm, pleasant, tingling sensation where the organisms touched his skin. "It feels good," he said. "Like they're trying to help somehow." Emma took detailed notes and measurements. Then she had an idea. "Jake, try thinking about something that makes you happy while you're touching them." Jake thought about flying through space, seeing new stars and planets for the first time. The symbiont's glow became even brighter, and the tingling sensation spread up his arm. "Now think about something that makes you angry or sad." Emma said. Jake thought about the war, about friends who had died in the fighting. Immediately, the symbiont's glow dimmed, and they moved away from his finger. "Incredible," Emma said, writing quickly. "They really do respond to emotional states. But your reaction is much stronger than anything I've recorded before." They spent the morning doing various tests. Emma discovered that the symbionts not only responded to Jake's emotions, but they actually seemed to make his injuries heal faster. The pain in his ribs decreased noticeably after he worked with the organisms. "This could be revolutionary," Emma said during lunch. "If we could understand how this works, we could develop new medical treatments. We could help millions of people." Jake was equally excited. "Have you reported this discovery to your supervisors?" Emma's expression became serious. "That's the problem. If I report this to the CLF, they'll want to use it as a weapon somehow." They'll try to find ways to make it hurt Earth Federation soldiers instead of helping people. The same thing would happen if the Federation found out, Jake said. They'd want to use it against the CLF. They sat in silence for a moment, both thinking about the implications of Emma's discovery. Maybe we should keep working on it ourselves, Jake said finally. Just the two of us. Until we understand it better, Emma nodded. I was thinking the same thing. We could make sure the research is used to help humanity instead of hurt it. That afternoon, Emma had another idea. Jake, what if we both work with the symbionts at the same time? Maybe they'll react differently to two people working together. They prepared a larger sample and both placed their hands near the organisms. The results were extraordinary. The symbionts glowed brighter than ever before, and they began forming complex patterns in the dish. It was like they were trying to communicate. Look at that, Emma said in wonder. They're organizing themselves into some kind of structure. Jake felt the warm, tingling sensation throughout his whole body now. But more than that, he felt a strange connection to Emma, as if he could sense her emotions and thoughts. Emma, he said softly, can you feel that? Emma looked at him with wide eyes. Yes, it's like we're connected somehow. I can sense what you're feeling. They experimented for hours, discovering that the symbionts created a kind of bridge between their minds when they worked together. They could share thoughts and emotions in a way that was completely new to both of them. As the sun began to set, they took a break from their research and walked outside the station. The purple grassland stretched around them under the orange sky of New Verona's sunset. Jake, Emma said as they walked, I need to tell you something. I've never felt this way before about anyone. Jake stopped walking and looked at her. Over the past 2 days, he had come to admire not just Emma's scientific brilliance, but her kindness, her courage, and her dedication to helping others. She was different from anyone he had ever met. I feel the same way, Jake said. I know. We're supposed to be enemies, but I don't care about that anymore. You're the most amazing person I've ever known. Emma smiled, and Jake felt his heart race. The symbionts respond to our emotions, she said. Maybe they're trying to tell us something about how humans should treat each other. What do you mean? Jake asked. They only work when there's harmony and cooperation, Emma said. They get stronger when people work together instead of fighting. Maybe that's the real discovery here. Maybe humans are meant to be partners, not enemies. Jake tipped Emma's hand as they watched the sunset. If that's true, then our research could do more than just heal injuries. It could help heal the divisions between humans. Emma squeezed his hand. But first, we need to keep ourselves safe. If either of our factions finds out about this, they'll try to separate us and take the research for themselves. Jake nodded. Then we'll have to be very careful. We're not just protecting a scientific discovery anymore. We're protecting something much more important. As the stars began to appear in New Verona's sky, Jake and Emma knew that their lives had changed forever. They had found something that could transform humanity's future, and they had found each other. But they also knew that their greatest challenges were still ahead. 3 days later, Emma received a message on her communication device that made her face turn pale. Jake was working with the symbionts when he heard her sharp intake of breath. What's wrong? Jake asked, looking up from the microscope. Emma showed him the message display. My supervisor wants a full report on my research progress. She's sending someone to check on me tomorrow. Jake felt his stomach drop. Can you delay them? I tried, Emma said. But Dr. Amy Walsh is already on her way. She's my research partner and my best friend, but she's also loyal to the CLF. If she finds you here, she have to report it. Jake stood up and began pacing around the laboratory. We need to hide our research and get me somewhere safe. Emma nodded, but her expression was worried. There's something else. I intercepted some military communications yesterday. Both Federation and CLF forces are looking for you. Your disappearance hasn't gone unnoticed. What kind of forces? Jake asked. Your Federation unit is being led by someone called Commander Lisa Brooks. She's been searching the crash site and expanding outward. The CLF has Captain Ryan Davis coordinated with local security forces. Jake recognized both names. Lisa Brooks was his commanding officer, a tough but fair leader who cared about her pilots. Ryan Davis had a reputation as a skilled but ruthless officer who followed orders without question. How much time do we have? Jake asked. Emma checked her instruments. Amy will be here in about 6 hours. The military search teams are maybe 2 days away from finding this valley. They spent the next few hours preparing. Emma carefully packed samples of their symbiont research into sealed containers. Jake gathered his few possessions and checked his weapon. They both knew they would have to leave the research station. Where can we go? Jake asked. Emma pulled out a map of the local area. There are some caves in the mountains about 20 kilometers north of here. They're deep enough to hide from aerial searches, and there's a freshwater spring inside. What about your research equipment? I'll take the portable gear, Emma said. We'll have to leave the rest behind and hope Amy doesn't examine it too closely. As they loaded supplies into Emma's aircraft, Jake noticed how quiet she had become. Are you all right? Emma stopped what she was doing and looked at him. Jake, I'm scared. Not just about getting caught, but about what happens to us, to our research, to everything we've discovered. Jake put his arms around her. We'll figure it out together. That's what the symbionts taught us, right? We're stronger when we work as partners. Emma smiled, but her eyes still showed worry. I just wish there was another way. I hate having to run and hide like criminals when all we're trying to do is help humanity. They flew toward the mountains as the sun began to set. The landscape below them was beautiful but wild. Jake could see why this area would be perfect for hiding. The rocky terrain was full of caves and hidden valleys where search teams might never look. Emma landed the aircraft in a narrow canyon, and they hiked the rest of the way to the caves. The entrance was hidden behind some large rocks, and the inside was surprisingly spacious. There was even a small chamber that would work as a laboratory. This will do, Emma said as they set up their equipment. We can continue our research here while we figure out what to do next. That night, they sat by a small fire near the cave entrance and talked about their situation. Both knew they were falling deeper in love, but both also understood how dangerous their position had become. Emma, Jake said, I need to tell you something. Before I crashed on this planet, I was starting to have doubts about the war. I joined the Federation to explore space, not to fight other humans. Meeting you has made me realize that everything I was taught about the enemy was wrong. Emma took his hand. I've been thinking the same thing. You're not like the Federation soldiers I was told about. You're kind and curious, and you care about doing the right thing. If there are more people like you on both sides, maybe this war doesn't have to continue forever. Jake squeezed her hand. The symbionts showed us something important. Humans achieve their greatest potential when they cooperate instead of compete. Maybe our research could prove that to both factions. But first, we have to survive long enough to complete it, Emma said. The next morning, they woke to the sound of aircraft flying overhead. Emma checked her instruments and confirmed that it was Amy Walsh arriving at the research station. She noticed that I'm gone, Emma said, and she'll probably find traces of your presence. Later that day, Emma's communication device buzzed with an incoming call. She looked at Jake nervously before answering. Emma, where are you? Amy's voice sounded worried and confused. I found the research station, but you're not here. There are signs that someone else has been living here with you. Emma had prepared for this call. I'm doing field research in the northern sector. I had a research volunteer helping me for a few days, but they've gone back to their colony now. What kind of volunteer? Amy asked. There was suspicion in her voice. Just a local settler who was interested in my work, Emma said, trying to sound casual. Nothing important. There was a long pause. Emma, I found traces of Federation technology in your lab. Medical scanners, communication equipment. And there are boot prints that match Federation military gear. Emma felt her heart racing. Amy was too good a scientist to miss important details. I can explain, Emma said, but Amy interrupted her. Emma, please tell me you haven't been helping an enemy. Soldier, please tell me you're not in trouble. Emma looked at Jake, who was listening to every word. She had to make a choice between lying to her best friend and protecting the man she was falling in love with. Amy, I can't explain everything over the communication channel. Can you meet me at the old mining station near Sector 7? Come alone. Emma, you're scaring me. What's going on? Just trust me, please. Meet me there in 2 hours. And Amy, don't report this to anyone else yet. I'll explain everything when I see you. Emma ended the call and looked at Jake. We have to make a decision. We can run deeper into the mountains and hope they never find us. Or we can try to trust Amy and see if she'll help us. Jake thought about this carefully. What do you think she'll do if you tell her the truth? I don't know, Emma said honestly. Amy is a good person, but she's also a loyal CLF officer. If she thinks our research could help the Colonial Liberation Front win the war, she might support us. But if she thinks I'm betraying our cause, she might turn us in. It's risky, Jake said, but maybe it's time to start trusting people. We can't hide forever, and we can't complete our research alone. Emma nodded slowly. Then we'll meet with Amy. Together. If we're going to change anything, we have to start somewhere. As they prepared to leave the cave, both Jake and Emma knew they were taking a huge gamble. But they also knew that their love and their research were too important to abandon. They would face whatever came next as partners, just like the symbionts had taught them. The old mining station sat in a valley between two steep hills, its rusty buildings abandoned for years. Emma and Jake approached carefully, watching for any signs of ambush. Emma's aircraft was hidden in a grove of silver-leaf trees about a kilometer away. I see Amy's shuttle, Emma said, pointing to a small blue aircraft near the main building. She came alone like I asked. Jake checked his weapon and made sure it was easily accessible. Remember, if this goes wrong, we run for the mountains. Don't try to protect me. Emma shook her head. We're partners now. We face this together. They walked toward the mining station, their footsteps echoing off the metal walls. Amy appeared in the doorway of the main building. She was a woman about Emma's age with short red hair and intelligent green eyes. She wore a CLF research uniform and carried a small scanner. Emma, Amy called out, relief evident in her voice. I was so worried about you. Then she saw Jake and her expression changed to shock. Is that a Federation uniform? Emma stepped forward. Amy, this is Jake Morrison. He's the person who's been helping me with my research. Amy's hand moved toward the communication device on her belt. Emma, do you realize what you're doing? You're harboring an enemy soldier. Please, just listen to me, Emma said urgently. Jake isn't our enemy. He's helped me make the most important discovery of my career. Maybe the most important discovery in human history. Amy looked back and forth between Emma and Jake, her training as a CLF officer fighting with her loyalty to her friend. Emma, I've known you since we were students. You're the smartest person I know, but you're also trusting to a fault. How do you know this isn't some kind of Federation trick? Jake stepped forward slowly, keeping his hands visible. Dr. Walsh, I know you have no reason to trust me, but I crashed on this planet by accident. Emma saved my life when she could have easily captured me or let me die. Everything that's happened since then has been my choice. What kind of discovery? Amy asked, still suspicious but curious despite herself. Emma opened the case she had brought with her and pulled out a container of the symbiotic organisms. Even in the dim light of the mining station, they glowed with soft blue radiance. These organisms respond to human emotional states and can enhance healing when there's cooperation and harmony. Emma explained. But the most amazing thing happens. When two people work with them together, Amy leaned forward to examine the container more closely. As a trained scientist, her curiosity was overcoming her suspicion. I've never seen anything like this. What do you mean they respond to emotions? Emma looked at Jake. Show her. Jake placed his hand near the container. The organisms immediately began glowing brighter and moving in complex patterns. Amy watched with fascination. Now watch what happens when we both participate, Emma said. Emma and Jake each placed a hand near the organisms. The glow became brilliant, and the creatures formed intricate structures that pulsed with rhythmic light. Amy's scanner began beeping rapidly. Incredible, Amy whispered. The energy readings are off the charts. What does this mean? It means humans are stronger when they cooperate instead of fight, Jake said. The organisms only work this way when there's genuine partnership and mutual respect. Amy looked up at Emma. How long have you been working on this? A week, Emma said. But Amy, we've barely scratched the surface. This could revolutionize medicine, psychology, even social organization. Imagine if we could prove scientifically that cooperation produces better results than conflict. Amy was quiet for a long moment, processing what she had seen. Finally, she spoke. Emma, this is incredible research, but do you understand what position this puts me in? I'm supposed to report any contact with Federation personnel. If my superiors find out I knew about this and didn't report it, I know I'm asking a lot, Emma said. But Amy, this is bigger than the war. This could help end the fighting between our factions. Amy stood up and walked to the window of the mining station. Outside, the landscape of New Verona stretched peacefully in all directions. How? She asked. Jake joined her at the window. Dr. Walsh, I was a loyal Federation pilot before I came here. I believed everything I was told about the CLF being dangerous enemies. But spending time with Emma has shown me that we're not so different. We both want to explore space and help humanity. We're fighting over things that don't really matter. The organisms prove it, Emma added. They demonstrate that humans achieve their greatest potential through cooperation. If we could share this research, both factions. Amy turned back to them. You want to give this discovery to both sides. We want to give it to humanity, Emma said. Not to be used as a weapon, but to help heal the divisions between us. Before Amy could respond, the sound of aircraft engines filled the air. All three of them rushed to the window and saw military shuttles approaching from two different directions. Federation ships from the south, CLF ships from the north. They found us, Jake said grimly. Amy grabbed her communication device. This is Dr. Amy Walsh to CLF Command. I have located the missing Federation pilot Jake Morrison and researcher Emma Carter. They are at the abandoned mining station in Sector 7. Emma felt her heart sink. Amy, what are you doing? But Amy wasn't finished talking. However, I am requesting immediate priority clearance to speak with General Patricia Hayes before any action is taken. I have critical information about a scientific discovery that could affect the entire war. Emma looked at Amy with surprise and gratitude. Amy was buying them time instead of simply turning them in. The aircraft landed around the mining station. Federation soldiers in blue uniforms emerged from one group, while CLF soldiers in green uniforms came from the other direction. Both groups had their weapons ready. Commander Lisa Brooks stepped forward from the Federation group. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Lieutenant Morrison, she called out, step away from the hostiles and report to me immediately. From the CLF group, Captain Ryan Davis emerged. He was a lean man with dark hair and cold expression. Dr. Carter, you are under arrest for treason and collaboration with the enemy. Jake and Emma stood together in the doorway of the mining station, surrounded by soldiers from both factions. Emma held the container of organisms protectively against her chest. Wait, Amy called out, stepping between the two military groups. Before anyone does anything they might regret, you need to see what they've discovered. Commander Brooks looked skeptical. Dr. Walsh, this is a military matter now. Step aside. No, Amy said firmly. This is a scientific matter that could change everything. Give me 5 minutes to show you something that could end this war. Captain Davis raised his weapon slightly. The only thing that will end this war is total victory for the Colonial Liberation Front. Amy looked at both commanders with determination. Then you're both fools who care more about fighting than about humanity's future. The tension in the air was thick as soldiers from both sides pointed their weapons at each other. Jake and Emma stood in the middle, knowing that their next words could determine not just their own fate, but possibly the future of human civilization. Emma stepped forward, still holding the container of glowing organisms. Commander Brooks, Captain Davis, we have something to show you that's more important than this conflict. Something that proves we're all on the same side whether we realize it or not. Emma held the container of glowing organisms high above her head so everyone could see them. The blue light pulsed gently in the dim afternoon air. What you're looking at, Emma said loudly, are living proof that humans are meant to work together, not fight each other. Commander Brooks kept her weapon pointed at the CLF soldiers, but glanced at the container with curiosity. Dr. Carter, I don't know what game you're playing, but Lieutenant Morrison is coming with us. Captain Davis stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the glowing organisms. And you're both coming with us. Dr. Carter, you've betrayed your own faction. Jake moved to stand beside Emma. Both of you are missing the point. What Emma discovered could save millions of lives and end this war. The only thing that will end this war is victory, Captain Davis said coldly. Amy Walsh pulled out her scanner and aimed it at the container. Look at your instruments, she called to both groups. Look at the energy readings these organisms are producing. Some of the soldiers checked their scanners and began murmuring to each other. The energy levels were unlike anything they had seen before. Emma saw her chance. Jake, help me show them. Emma and Jake both placed their hands near the container. Immediately, the organisms blazed with brilliant light and began forming complex patterns. The energy readings on every scanner in the area went wild. Impossible, Commander Brooks whispered, lowering her weapon slightly. What are those things? One of the Federation soldiers asked. Emma spoke clearly so everyone could hear her. They're symbiotic organisms native to New Verona. They respond to human emotions and cooperation. When people work together in harmony, the organisms become more active and can enhance healing, boost mental clarity, and create connections between minds. Captain Davis looked skeptical. So what? It's just some alien life form. No, Jake said firmly. It's proof that cooperation produces better results than conflict. Watch what happens when Emma and I work together versus when we're apart. Jake stepped away from the container. The organism's glow dimmed significantly. Then he returned and the light blazed again. The organisms only reach their full potential when there's genuine partnership, Emma explained. They're showing us how humans should interact with each other. Amy stepped forward. I've verified the research. These organisms could revolutionize medicine and help us understand human psychology in completely new ways. But only if we work together to study them. Commander Brooks was studying the readings on her scanner. Dr. Carter, are you saying this? Discovery could benefit both our factions? I'm saying it could benefit all of humanity, Emma replied. But not if we use it as a weapon. The organisms only work when there's real cooperation and mutual respect. Captain Davis raised his weapon again. This is CLF territory and CLF research. The Federation has no claim here. And Lieutenant Morrison is Federation personnel, Commander Brooks countered. He's coming with us regardless of any scientific discoveries. Jake felt his heart racing. Everything was about to fall apart. He looked at Emma, then at the soldiers surrounding them, and made a decision that would change everything. No, Jake said loudly. I'm not going anywhere. Commander Brooks stared at him in shock. Lieutenant Morrison, that's an order? I respectfully resign my commission, Jake said. I'm staying here with Emma to continue this research. You can't resign in the middle of a military operation, Commander Brooks said. Emma stepped closer to Jake and took his hand. And I'm resigning from the CLF Research Division. This work is too important to be controlled by either faction. Captain Davis laughed harshly. You think you can just walk away? You both know military secrets. You're both coming with us as prisoners. Amy looked around at all the soldiers pointing weapons at each other and made her own choice. Then I'm resigning too. Dr. Carter is right. This research belongs to humanity, not to any political faction. One of the Federation soldiers, a young man named Pete Johnson, who had served with Jake, lowered his weapon. Commander, with respect, maybe we should listen to what they're saying. Stay out of this, Corporal Johnson, Commander Brooks snapped. But Pete continued talking. I've known Lieutenant Morrison for 2 years. He's the most honest person I've ever met. If he says this is important enough to risk his career over, maybe we should pay attention. Some of the other soldiers were nodding in agreement. The mood was shifting, but Captain Davis was not convinced. Enough talk, Captain Davis said. All 3 researchers are coming with us. Open fire on any Federation personnel who interfere. Captain, wait, one of his own soldiers said. It was Corporal Lisa Martinez, who had worked with Amy Walsh before. Dr. Walsh has always been loyal to our cause. If she thinks this is important. Captain Davis turned his weapon toward his own soldier. Corporal Martinez, you're out of line. That was the moment everything changed. Commander Brooks saw Captain Davis threatening his own people and realized how far the conflict had gone. Captain Davis, Commander Brooks said, lower your weapon. We need to talk about this situation calmly. There's nothing to talk about, Captain Davis replied. These people are traitors. Emma saw that Captain Davis would never listen to reason. She looked at Jake and Amy, then made the hardest decision of her life. Jake, Amy, help me with one more demonstration. All 3 of them placed their hands near the container together. The organisms erupted with light so brilliant that everyone had to shield their eyes. But more than that, a wave of warmth and connection seemed to spread outward from the container. Every person in the area, soldiers from both factions, suddenly felt what Emma, Jake, and Amy were feeling. They experienced the peace, the hope, and the love that had grown between the 3 researchers. For a brief moment, all the anger and hatred seemed to fade away. Do you feel that? Emma called out. That's what humans can achieve when we work together instead of fighting each other. Many of the soldiers lowered their weapons, looking confused but somehow peaceful. Even Commander Brooks seemed affected by the experience, but Captain Davis was furious. It's some kind of weapon, he shouted. They're trying to control our minds. He raised his weapon and fired at the container. The blast shattered it, spilling the organisms onto the ground. But Captain Davis didn't stop there. He turned his weapon toward Emma. Jake threw himself in front of Emma just as Captain Davis fired again. The energy blast caught Jake in the chest, and he collapsed to the ground. Jake, Emma screamed, falling to her knees beside him. Amy immediately began checking Jake's wounds, but everyone could see they were severe. The blast had damaged his heart and lungs. Commander Brooks was so shocked by Captain Davis's actions that she stunned him with her own weapon. Medic! She shouted. Get a medic over here now. But Jake was looking up at Emma with peaceful eyes. Emma, he whispered, the research. Make sure it helps everyone. Emma held his hand as tears streamed down her face. Jake, stay with me. We can continue to work together. Jake smiled weakly. The organisms taught us the truth. Love is stronger than hate. Cooperation is better than conflict. Don't let them forget that. Jake died in Emma's arms as the sun set over New Verona. But his death had an effect that no one expected. The soldiers from both factions, who had felt the connection created by the organisms, were horrified by what their conflict had led to. Pete Johnson was the first to lay down his weapon. This has to stop, he said. We're all human beings. We shouldn't be killing each other. One by one, other soldiers from both sides lowered their weapons. Even Commander Brooks and some of Captain Davis's own soldiers were affected by what they had witnessed. Emma looked up at all of them through her tears. Jake was right. We're stronger together than apart. This war has to end. Amy helped Emma gather samples of the spilled organisms that were still alive. Emma, we can still save the research. We can make sure Jake's sacrifice means something. Over the following months, Emma and Amy worked together to complete their research. They published their findings freely to all human colonies, showing that cooperation and unity produce better results than conflict and division. Jake and Emma's love story spread across human space, inspiring people on both sides to question the war. The New Verona Accords were signed exactly 1 year after Jake's death, ending the conflict between the Earth Federation and the Colonial Liberation Front. The research station where Emma and Jake had worked was turned into a memorial and academy, dedicated to peaceful cooperation and scientific advancement. The symbiotic organisms were cultivated throughout human space, serving as a constant reminder that humanity's greatest achievements came through working together. Emma never married, but she continued their research for the rest of her life. She often said that Jake's spirit lived on in every discovery that brought humans closer together, rather than driving them apart. The love that had grown between a Federation pilot and a CLF researcher became a symbol of hope that even the deepest divisions could be healed through understanding, cooperation, and love.